Hello, everyone. This is John Blackstone again for another episode of Only Kid with a Camera, but it's one of our conversation episodes, and I'm joined here again with Jeff Meany, who all of you will remember from the last episode, talking about songs that we enjoyed when we were kids and now not so much. But we're going to do something a little different tonight. One of the subjects we were on recently was artists that have put out what's frequently considered to be the best of the best music in pop music history, and somewhere along the line in their career, they declined to such a level that it's almost unfathomable.
We're going to call this episode "Oh, How the Mighty Have Fallen."
I love that.
So we're going to play some music that is, like John said, the best of the best, at least from our limited perspectives. And we're going to play something which we consider, it's hard to definitively say this is the best song by this person, but a song or this band or this person. This song, though, epitomizes their greatness.
Yes.
This is where, if you want to hear why they are great, listen to this song. And if you don't understand it, then you'll never understand the artist, probably. So
Nor like them.
Right. Or like anything good. You probably don't even like ice cream if you don't like this stuff, so...
And we have not told each other what we're going to be playing or even the artists that we've chosen.
No, but I have a prediction. I have a prediction out of the three artists that two of them will be the same.
Okay, yeah.
I'm almost certain of that. I'll be shocked if it's not the truth.
Yeah.
So should I just get on with it?
Yeah. So you're going to first introduce us to an artist at his her peak.
And the first artist I'm going to introduce is one that I know 100% is going to be John's artist also. So more than anything, I'm interested to hear which song he picks to epitomize his greatness and which song he chooses to epitomize the pathetic depths to which he plummeted. And that artist is Elton John.
I knew it. And it's sad but true that Elton gave us so many peaks of achievement and so many just almost unfathomable lows.
Yeah, and we can talk about this at the end, but one of the things I've been thinking about is what is it about an artist and his band and his songwriter or lyricist or whatever, and the producer and everybody involved that they could make such great music at one moment in history and fast forward to however far forward, and they just churn out this colossal piece of garbage.
Yeah, I've pondered this many times, and as silly and maybe as simple a word as this is to use, the thing I always come to realize is that in those sessions, there was some kind of a combination of synchronicity and magic happening where they were all firing on they were all on the same wavelength, and their individual talents that they brought into the studio they fired up each other to a collective amazing achievement. That's always the case when you read interviews with, Elton John's band members or the Beatles, or there's something that happens. They get in there. Oftentimes it's the perfect producer is also a big part of it. Yeah.
I think there's also hunger.
Oh,
a lot of people in their early days, there's a hunger and a desire to prove something that they are great artists. And once they've proven that, where do you go?
Yeah.
So,
not to mention now that you're not worrying about paying the bills anymore, it takes some of your angst away.
Right, and probably be a little more experimental. So my first song, this Elton John song. Actually, there's two songs I have, and it's kind of a coin toss. And there's a dozen songs I could pick by Elton to show his greatness as a musician and as a songwriter.
Yes.
And same with Bernie and the band.
Yep.
But this is a song I'm going to play. This is kind of what I would call, for most people who are casual listeners to music, this is what I would call a deep track. But it's such a beautiful song. It is so complex musically and emotionally and lyrically. I'm not a drummer. I'm not a rhythm guy. But there's something about the drumming in this song that gets me. It's just focus on that for a second.
Which piques my interest because I keep trying to turn you on to the drummer side of these things.
You have actually. And this is off of Goodbye Brick Road, which is no surprise.
Yeah.
And this song is I've Seen That Movie Too.
Oh, my goodness. Wowza.
The setup's amazing.
It is. It's incredible.
I can see by your eyes you must be lying.
Do you notice how
When you
the kick drum is hitting on these weird...
I cannot for the life of me discern what the drumming rhythm is.
But you can hear that, right?
Yeah. It gives me almost this delightful musical angst.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's not a...
Yes. And Dee Murray is totally locked into everyone every time he hits that kick drum.
It's an amazing song. John, I think through the magic of editing, after about a moment here, we should fast forward to what to me is the sweet spot of the song, which is the guitar solo.
Okay. When you're listening to this track, I'm going to stop when the guitar solo starts, but pay attention to how the drummer is so laid back that it's almost like if he waited 1 millisecond later, he would be off. Amazing. This part. Wow. And the orchestral score is reading from his guitar solo and incorporating those melody lines.
Just
into the
brilliant.
part.
Again, this song makes my nipples erect, if I may be so frank.
Absolutely.
But it gives me goose flesh every time I hear it.
It is. It's truly a stunning and magical. This part. Oh, just. Oh my goodness.
So that is what this man is capable of. That is what his band is capable of.
Yep.
That is what the lyricist is capable of.
And, we should say something about the Elton John band because, well, Elton started off with Nigel Olsson on drums, Dee Murray on bass, and Elton really broke his career as a three-piece band. It wasn't until 1972 with Honky Chateau that Elton stopped using the studio musicians that had played on his first 4 albums and started using his band. And at the same time, he brought in Davey Johnston as a guitar player. So that Honky Chateau album is the first of all that run of albums with the Elton John band. And I don't know if you know this, but Elton, at that point, Elton was so aware of what he had in these musicians and how much they impacted his music that when he released the album after Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, both the single
Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, but it was there were several singles. There were not several, but some singles that came out. If you look at the 45s, it's not credited to Elton John. It's credited to the Elton John band. That's how important the band was to him. And also on stage, if you look at photos of them on stage, there was neon lighting that had each person's name over them on stage. So for this period of time, Elton was kind of like, hey, it's not just me, it's my band.
He's very cohesive.
Yeah.
So I just want to play a snippet of another great song by Elton that, John, you can cut this out if you need to, but this is a song that I heard in high school, and I've been mesmerized by it every time I hear it. When I hear it on the radio, I turn it up, I seek it out. I'll just start it.
Oh.
Again, the setup, the opening and the setup, it doesn't get started right away. It sets you up for what's about to follow.
That's right. It's like a film.
And we don't need to go on long about this song, but this is just another sterling example of his ability. And the band's ability. And
not to mention
the
Bernie Taupin's words in this are just...
Yeah, so...
Pause it for a second. When I think of those East End lights, muggy nights, the curtains drawn in the little room downstairs, there's not really any rhyme scheme to that. But then he goes, prima donna, Lord, you really should have been there, sitting like a princess perched in her electric chair. That's like, from what I understand... Bernie didn't actually write typical lyrics that were like, rhyme, 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 verse,
It's
verse.
free form.
It was free form. And oftentimes Elton had to figure out the ways to phrase everything, to fit them into these.
It's extremely satisfying.
It is. It's
rhythmically.
It is. It's
Okay, I'm sorry to say the time has come to play this stinker. And one thing I want to point out here is that these are the same guys.
Oh no! I know what you're gonna.
This is
play.
This is the same artist,
I know
Elton
what
John,
you're gonna
the
play.
same lyricist. This is from an album that features Pete Townsend, Ray Cooper, and also Bruce Johnston and Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys sing backup vocals on this album.
Jeff,
How can you go wrong?
How can you go wrong?
Let me,
That's the question.
let me demonstrate for you how you can go wrong. And this is one of those songs that when I hear it, I immediately change the station.
Yes.
Immediately. I will never, ever willingly, other than today when I was going through my music to hear the song, will I listen to this song.
All right.
And you probably can guess the album. It's from, what year is this from?
Is it Jump Up?
No, it's from 1988, from the album Red Strikes Back. And,
Okay. Nigel and Dee did not play on that album.
Oh,
All they did was sing background vocals.
okay, well, they were in the room.
Yeah.
And so this song hit number 2 on the U.S. charts. It hit number 1 on Adult Contemporary. It was top of the pops in Canada. This was the last number 1 song that Elton John had in the 80s. Just right out of the gate, it sucks. I don't know if they even had drum machines, but that's a drum machine.
Yeah, it basically sounds like someone hitting a chalkboard with a rake.
There's something about the way he delivers those vocals, those lyrics. It's just so unpleasant. I just find that the way that the lyric is that he's trying to shove too much into a small space.
That's a typical thing that happened with them later. Elton would shove way too many words, and Bernie was writing way more complicated, unnecessarily complicated lyrics. So I'm totally with you on this. Yeah.
This song sucks. And here's the other thing that kills me. Do you know who produced this album?
Chris
Thomas.
Chris Thomas. He produced
The
almost
man
all
who
of it.
produced part of the White Album. He played the piano on one of my favorite Beatles songs. He played the piano on Long, Long, Long on the White Album.
Yep.
And he oversaw this excrement.
Almost all of the albums in the 80s were produced by Chris Thomas, and I can't stand his production at all.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. All right, we've had enough of this.
We've had enough of this. So, how the mighty have fallen, as I said.
Okay, now this one is actually from Elton's second. This is before he actually was working with the band that we were talking about earlier. This is Paul Buckmaster, the guy that wrote the orchestral arrangements for what is known as Elton John's breakout album, which has Your Song and Take Me to the Pilot. And then this is the second one after that. This is off of a Tumbleweed Connection. And I just think this is one of the most impeccably beautiful, not only the song, but the orchestral arrangement.
In the quiet, silent seconds, I turned off the light switch and I came down to meet you in the half-light the moon left while a cluster of nightjars sang some songs out of tune.
It's so cool how he breaks those phrases up in
Yes.
such a really interesting way.
Yes.
Down from a room, come down in time. I still hear her say, so clear in my ear, like it was today.
This part.
Come down in time was the message she gave. Come down in time and I'll meet you halfway.
So cool.
It is a beautiful song.
Unbelievable. And he's not actually, this piano is not actually on it. It's all orchestral.
Well, I don't know if I should have heard her as yet, but true love.
It's hard for me to turn this one off. I'll
Yeah,
tell
it
you.
is.
I just love it so much. There's so many songs that I could choose. Elton has truly hit, like, in my view, he's the worst offender of all of them.
Yeah, and and truthfully, there's really very little in my collection after the 70s of his. I have, Made in England. I have
Which is a good album.
Peachtree. What's it called?
Peachtree Road.
Peachtree Road.
But you have songs from the West Coast.
Yeah,
That's
songs from
something.
West Coast, which actually is pretty darn good.
To me, was his last great album.
Yeah,
That one.
but between that 80s, early 90s, I didn't listen to any of that stuff because I could tell from afar that it was really awful.
You're missing some nuggets in there. Like, he reunited with the Four Guys for 2 albums, and there's some really great songs on there, believe it or not.
Well, I was scared off by the odor,
Yes.
general odor.
I don't blame you. Okay, here we go. This is only 7 years after the track that we just played. That's not that long. Less than a decade.
Still in the 70s. Can you say disco?
This is the same guy that produced the song that we just finished listening to.
Gus Dudgeon did this?
No.
Oh, he said produced. Oh, who created it?
You said you never fake it. You swore we'd always
This was a single.
What year is this?
1978.
See, he sounds like he's trying to do a Queen song or something. He sounds like he's trying to be like Freddie Mercury there.
I don't know what he's trying to do, but it's terrible. It's so dead and lifeless. There's nothing. This is the chorus,
Yeah, I've never heard this song, but small wonder.
Victim of Love.
Wow, what an amazing concept.
While we're on the album.
Take you for a ride?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I will say something about Elton, which is it's his downfall, and I'll probably get a lot of comments about this, but when Elton was growing up, records were like his friends. He literally talks about this. He lived in a very unhappy home, and so his record collection was like that was his family. Literally, he describes it that way. And as a matter of fact, by the 1972, after he had already had a sizable career on the way, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as having the largest private collection of vinyl records in the UK, which is a lot. So Elton was a fanatical collector. He bought every single thing that was on the charts, and he knew it all encyclopedically. And he was known to be like that. There's even videos online of Tower Records in Los Angeles used to open up, especially for him, every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. He'd show up in his limo and literally walk out of there with crates of records. He was just like a fanatical consumer of anything. And that's, to me, what killed him, is that right when he was launching as an artist, popular music just happened to be pretty good at that time. What happened as his popular music became lousy, Elton went right along with it because he's a fan of pop music. So he was fortunate in that when he launched his career, he was being influenced by great artists like Leon Russell and the band and all these people. By the time 1978 comes around, he's being influenced literally by disco, by whatever's on the pop charts. He's always been that way, and that's why his career has been so shoddy and up and down, is because he's a pop music fan first and an artist second. The opening track of the Victim of Love album, it's a disco version of Johnny B. Good. This is literally some of the worst music I've ever heard in my life. It's not even good disco music. It's just flat, dead, horrible music. It goes on. He's singing.
I want to change it.
It's this classic Chuck Berry song, and he just turns it into this nightmare of.
I was thinking about this beforehand. Two questions. First of all, is why do we like to talk about crappy music? And second is what, and you've given some opinion about why this happens, but why does it happen? And to answer the second question first, well, to give an answer, I don't know, say the answer. I'll never forget something I heard Bob Dylan say. I think it was when he's being interviewed on 60 Minutes. I don't know, that was 10, 15 years ago.
I know that interview, yeah.
And he was asked, I think it was Ed Bradley that interviewed him. He was asked,
You ever look at music that you've written and look back at it and say, whoa, that surprised me?
I used to. I don't do that anymore. I don't know how I got to write those songs.
What do you mean you don't know how?
Well, those early songs were like almost magically written. Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, a handmade blade, a child's balloon.
Eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand you knew too soon. There is no sense in trying.
This Dylan classic, It's All Right, Ma, was written in 1964.
Mouthpiece, the hollow horn, plays wasted words, proves to warn that he not busy being born, is busy dying.
Well, try to sit down and write something like that. There's a magic to that, and it's not Siegfried and Roy kind of magic. You know, it's a different kind of a penetrating magic. And you know, I did it. I did it at one time.
You don't think you can do it today?
Mm-mm.
Does that disappoint you? I mean...
Well, you can't do something forever, and I did it once, and I can do other things now, but I can't do that.
there's a human force, there's a spiritual force
Yes.
in these people that compels them to make music
Yeah.
and provides them with the environment, the platform, the mindset to make these amazing songs.
Yes.
And we don't tend to look at the beginning of someone's career and look at how crappy their music was and how much better it got. It's usually the other way around. And I think a big part of that is that, well, first of all, when people are discovered, they're discovered for something good they've done.
Yep.
And at the time, I mentioned this earlier, is they're hungry and they are basically out to prove it to everybody.
Yes.
They have something to prove. They have
Yes.
a chip on their shoulder, what do you want to call it? You know, John Lennon wanted to have the best band in the world, and
Yep.
he did. You
Yep.
know, and that was what he worked at.
That's
what
right.
That's what they all worked at.
That's
So
right.
I think that's. I'm not at all a musical artist myself, but I do. I'm a creative person, and I totally understand what he means by
Absolutely.
the wellspring. The other question about why do we like to talk about crappy music is because train wrecks are awesome.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why people watch NASCAR and hockey, because they're
Yep.
watching for the crashes, for the fights.
Yep.
And there's something about seeing somebody, even someone we love and adore and admire and don't want to see harm come to, when we see them fail, there's something fascinating about it. It's because
is.
it's not us.
Yeah, it's not us.
We're being total armchair quarterbacks because these people have all made much better artistic contributions to the human race than I ever will.
It brings up the old cliche that they're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yes. So anyway, we do say this with a fair amount of humility, but
Yeah.
we are your fans, and we're also your customers, and we've given you guys lots of money,
Yeah.
as much as anybody has,
Yes.
through way of concerts and albums, and so I feel like we have the right to at least call something out like that, and we're not bitter about it. We're just amazed.
Calling an ace an ace.
There you go.
And for me, it's also, this may sound really weird, but it's like people like Paul McCartney, Elton John, as people that are basically like my musical idols, my songwriting idols. When they do something that's so embarrassingly bad, it makes me feel like they're tarnishing their legacy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I take it so personally, but I do. And It's like I just want to. It's like I wish I was his friend so I could tell him, "Don't put that out. That's really bad. It's way below your, way below your standard." Because you know that they're all surrounded by guys that say, "Oh, it's awesome."
Yeah, Elton, you can get a hold of John, and he'd be glad to help you out.
That's right. I'm sure he needs my help.
For sure.
I don't think he cares anymore. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, hey, that was fun.
It was.
I think we could probably go further with that. We may have to do another episode of yeah.
We could do. Yeah, I'm sure I could come up with 3 more
For sure. Easily.
Although Paul and Elton are definitely low hanging fruit.
They are, for sure.
Well, that was fun, John. Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me join you today.
Yeah, it was very fun, and we'll see you next time on Only Kid with the Camera. Please remember to subscribe. It's very important to subscribe so that you'll receive a notice whenever Jeff and I do these videos. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Night.